and joining me now is the Senate Minority Leader, Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer of New York. Leader Schumer, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Kristen, good to be back, and Happy New Year to you and your family and to all of America.
Oh, Happy New Year to you. Thank you so much for being here on this first Sunday of the new year. I do want to start off by getting your insights into the attack in New Orleans. As you know, a lot of families are sitting at home. They feel afraid. They feel on edge. There are a lot of big events coming up, from the inauguration to the Super Bowl, which is going to be in New Orleans. What are the security gaps that you think need to be addressed?
Well, first, I want to express my condolences to the families who are in mourning for the loved ones who were lost in New Orleans. We grieve for them. I also, the former soldier, member of the armed forces, who had PTSD and committed suicide in front of the Las Vegas hotel, showed, I think, that we need to do more for our veterans who have PTSD and other things there. As for security, the bottom line is that I believe the authorities are on full alert in terms of security. Look, terrorism is a greater threat here in America. We have ISIS, we have other groups. The terrorist who rammed his car and killed so many people was a professed member of ISIS. Now, we do not know. We know that he acted alone. We don't know if ISIS directed him to do it. They're still investigating. But we need to be very, very vigilant. And so I sent a letter yesterday to John Thune suggesting we have an all-senators briefing this week on the preparations for the big events that are coming up, and for the ability to ask questions of our law enforcement. I believe they are on top of this, but having an all-senators hearing and giving us a chance to answer questions and them to reply is a good thing. So I'm hopeful Senator Thune and I can work that out and get it done this week.
All right. Well, I know that you're going to continue to watch that closely. I do want to turn to how you see Democrats' role in this new Congress. Your fellow Democratic Congressman colleague, Tom Suozzi, said the party needs to try a different approach when it comes to dealing with President-elect Trump. Let me read you a little bit of what he had to say. He said, "I know my party will be tempted to hold fast against Mr. Trump at every turn. That would be a mistake. Only by working together to find compromise on parts of the president-elect's agenda can we make progress for Americans." Do you agree with Congressman Suozzi that Democrats need a new approach toward President-elect Trump?
Well, look, I think it's clear that whenever we can get things done in a bipartisan way, we try to do it. And that's the best way to go. It creates programs that are long-lasting and very popular. So back in 2021-22, when we had the most successful session of the Senate, of the Congress, in decades, 7 of the 8 major bills were done in a bipartisan way. So we always look for bipartisan cooperation and would welcome the ability. On the other hand, when there are things that we can't agree with, for instance, tax breaks for the wealthiest of Americans paid for, as many Republicans have suggested, by cuts in Social Security and in Medicare and making it harder for new families to buy their first home, they're going to have to go through us. We're going to oppose those kinds of things very, very rigorously. So I think we will be bipartisan when we can, but we also, when they're trying to do things, our Republican colleagues that are so bad for working people, will oppose them.
Leader Schumer, I'm curious where you see those potential areas. In my interview with President-elect Trump, he said he's open to potentially getting a deal for Dreamers, those who were brought to the country illegally as children, to be able to stay here permanently. Do you think that that is feasible? You heard Leader Thune say, yes, he thinks there are some areas of bipartisanship there. Do you think a deal on Dreamers is possible?
Well, we'd love to do that. Our party has been strongly fighting for the Dreamers for a decade. We've been blocked by our colleagues on the other side of the aisle. If there's going to be a change and we can get some help, look, these are people, they were little tiny children when they were brought over the border. Many of them have been here for decades. Some have served in the armed forces. Many of them are working very productively and have families. And yes, if we can find a solution so that the Dreamers could stay here, we'd welcome it.
You know, you heard Leader Thune in terms of President-elect Trump's cabinet say that the Senate should work, quote, as quickly as possible to get his cabinet picks in place, and basically saying that if his national security picks are not in place quickly, that could undermine the nation's national security. Do you agree with Leader Thune there?
Look, we've asked for three things that are reasonable. First, that there be thorough FBI background checks of every one of the nominees at the cabinet level. Second, that there be hearings where members have the opportunity to fully ask the questions that they want answered. And then third, there be a vote. That's been the tradition here under Democratic and Republican presidents. It's been advise and consent. And look, any American who applies for a job has to undergo a background check, has to answer questions that the potential employer asks him or her. So, of course, we should do those things, and I hope we will. The bottom line is these positions are really important, as Senator Thune said, for our national security, and the American people should have the ability to know who is being nominated and what their criteria are.
Are you a yes right now?
Characteristics are.
Are you a yes right now on any of these picks?
No, I'm waiting for this process, this reasonable process that we've asked for to unfold.
Let's talk
background checks, thorough background checks, hearings, and votes.
All right, let's talk now about the future of the Democratic Party. Democrats have said this is a real reckoning after losing the White House, the Senate not winning back the House. Here's what Democratic strategist James Carville had to say. He wrote, quote, "We lost for one very simple reason. It was, it is, and it will always be the economy. Stupid." Do you agree? What do you think was the root cause of Democrats across the board loss?
Well, look, I told my caucus, and I'll say it here, too. We should regard this election, certainly it was a loss, but it's also a challenge. And we did some things right. Against very severe headwinds, we kept 4 of those 7 contested Democratic seats. But we did some things wrong, and we have to look in the mirror and see what we did wrong. And then there's some things we didn't do that we should have done. One of the things we have to do is we must focus on the working families of America. We believe in them, and we passed all kinds of legislation that helped them. The infrastructure bill, which made our economy stronger and employed lots of people. The chip hubs, where we're now having chip hubs in places to do new manufacturing and new research that were left out before, Missoula, Montana, Bloomington, Indiana. The bill lowering the cost of prescription drugs. As of January 1st, 10 of the most popular prescription drugs will be greatly lowered because we finally allowed, under our leadership, the drug companies, we forced them to negotiate with Medicare. So we did a lot of good things, but all too often, Kristen, we talked about the mechanics of the legislation and the details of the legislation, and we really didn't show the kind of empathy and concern to average, or show enough of it to average working families who didn't realize how much we had done and how much we care for them. So what we're going to do is spend a lot of time talking to working families, showing them how much we care about them, and not just talk about legislation, but talk about the conditions that have made so many working families worried about their futures. And that's going to be a significant change.
And obviously,
I think it will make a difference.
Obviously, there has been a lot of focus on President Biden's role in this. You were obviously in close contact with President Biden well before the public tuned into that debate that ultimately led to him stepping down. I want to play you a little bit of something you said last year. Take a look.
I talk to President Biden, regularly, sometimes several times in a week, or usually several times in a week. His mental acuity is great. It's fine. It's as good as it's been over the years. All this right-wing propaganda that his mental acuity has declined is wrong.
Leader Schumer, what do you say to Americans who feel as though you and other top Democrats misled them about President Biden's mental acuity?
Nope. Look, we didn't, and let's look at President Biden. He's had an amazing record. The legislation we passed, one of the most significant groups of legislation since Lyndon Johnson's Great Society, putting in 235 judges, a record. And he's a patriot. He's a great guy. And when he stepped down, he did it on his own because he thought it was better not only for the Democratic Party, for America. We should all salute him. We should all salute him.
Do you feel, as we have this conversation today, that President Biden could serve another 4 years had he stayed in the race and potentially won?
Well, I'm not going to speculate. As I said, I think his record is a stellar one, and he'll go down in history as a really outstanding president. Before
I let you go, Leader Schumer, in 2 weeks,
yes,
you will be the highest-ranking Democrat serving in Washington. Do you believe you will be the leader of the Democratic Party?
Look, I think we have a lot of great leaders in our party. We have a great bench of people coming up, and I am really optimistic about the future of the Democratic Party in the future. As I said, there are certain adjustments we have to make. We're going to do those, and I think people are going to realize that the Democratic Party is the party of working families, of working people. We're doing more for them. We're going to show them that some of these Republican things, like tax cuts for the very wealthy individuals, which were they did it in 2017 and they lost the election in 2018. They haven't learned, but we're going to hold their feet to the fire when they do things that hurt working people. We're going to stand with the working families of America, and that's going to bode very well for us.
All right. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, thank you so much. I hope you'll come back again soon. Really appreciate talking to you this morning.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.